Evo Japan is right around the corner and I should be really excited, but I'm actually terrified. Why is that? Well, we're going to be talking about all that and more, but first, coffee. Today's coffee is a Colombia. It didn't have any more information than that. It just says Colombia, and as you can see, it's obviously quite a dark roast. Anyway, the reason I'm making this video is because I'm quite excited about the event that is about to happen at the end of this week. It's Evo Japan 2024. I have a trend when it comes to fighting game events or any events in general. Right before the event begins, about a week before, I just kind of freeze up and I'm like, oh, I don't want to go and I don't really feel like I'm ready to go, and I start to get all this anxiety about what's gonna happen at the event. For some odd reason, I end up like suddenly losing my enthusiasm for the event. It's like, I don't even really care about fighting games. It's like, what is this passive aggression that always happens right before the event? It's like, oh, I don't even like fighting. It's like, that's not true, because the rest of the year I spend all my time talking about how much I love fighting games. When we get to an event, I start to feel like I'm not ready for it, which is insane because I've been playing the game all year. It's like, I'm as ready as I'm ever going to be. If I really wanted to be more ready than this, I would have made a proper training regime and actually started playing like seriously, like with measuring my practice times and making sure that I'm going to events and, you know, actually going into matches and getting some practical experience. Oh, there it is. Let's grind! The event is coming up at the end of the week. And just coincidentally, I'm starting to lose my enthusiasm for fighting games. In fact, it's not just anxiety about the event. I actually stopped playing fighting games for the few weeks running up to these events. So things like Tokyo Game Show or Evo Japan. Sometimes I stream them, and sometimes I use live streaming as a way to force myself to play the game. But it's like, why am I forcing myself to play a game at all? It's like, if I don't want to play it, maybe I should just not play it. Or maybe there's something a little bit deeper going on. And I think it does come down to feeling like I'm not ready to perform in the way that's required for this event. So for example, Evo Japan, it'll be a performance in terms of the game. I'm afraid that I'm going to arrive and it's going to be embarrassing because I don't know how to play the game. Like, a lot of people, they're nervous because like, oh no, what if I lose? Like, I'm not worried about losing. When it comes to fighting games, it's very different for me. Whether it's like 3 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever time I'm spending with a person, I don't want it to be a waste of their time. Now, the truth is, that's probably not how anyone sees it. Like, if they play a match and it's really easy, they're probably just going to think, thank goodness I had an easy opponent, so now it's easier for me to go forward in the tournament. But on my side, in my mind, what I'm thinking the whole time is, this person's probably upset that I showed up to the tournament and I wasted their time by not playing seriously. It's like, I don't think you can really generalize the way that everyone is thinking. Everyone's got their own stuff on their mind. Like, maybe they thought, I'm glad I had an easy opponent. Maybe they are thinking, you know, who is this person? Why do they even bother? And the other thing that goes on top of that is, being a YouTuber, I'm also like, well, I make all these videos about fighting games and I talk about how enthusiastic I am about them. What if they're like, oh, they're actually really awful at the game? What a disappointment. Don't want to be that disappointment. I would never feel that way about anyone that I watch on YouTube. I mean, I watch plenty of other people who play games on YouTube, and I'm sure that if I met them in a fighting game match, I very much doubt that I'd be like, yeah, actually, I mean, I respected you on YouTube, but you're rubbish at this game. So actually, I don't like you anymore. I'm not even going to watch your channel anymore. I don't think I would think that. But on my side, for some reason, I feel like that might happen to me, and I have these crippling anxieties that surround my brain right before I get to these events. I'm going to be making my coffee today in this. I know what it looks like. It's actually a coffee maker. A lot of you probably already use one of these at home, but I have never had, well, until recently, I had never had the chance to use one of these. And they don't sell this one in Japan. So I had this sent over from a friend in the UK. It's the new clear version of the AeroPress. And what's really exciting about it is that it's a completely different way of, not completely, it's a really interesting way of making coffee, which seems to be very forgiving. Like, I feel like I could mess this up. I could probably put no coffee in here and just pour hot water, and somehow magically good coffee would still come out. I don't really understand how the technology works. I know that it's a combination of drip coffee and adding pressure, like an espresso, somewhere in between. We're going to be using it in a moment when the hot water is actually ready. So on the run up to Evo Japan 2024, I have been thinking, what a shame that this exciting event is happening. Lots of exciting, fun-looking people are coming to Japan to experience Japan and to experience Evo. There's going to be fun matches to watch. There's going to be fun games to play. There's going to be booths. There's going to be gear to test out. There's going to be gear and stuff that you can buy, merchandise. There's so many reasons why I was excited about this event and why I signed up. I want to go to this exciting event. But now that it's happening, suddenly I'm like, I feel like I'm not ready. And it really does come down to the fact that I'm not ready to play the game. But on top of that, I think I might just be a perfectionist. And I don't mean that in, I always want my stuff to be really great, and that's a good thing. Perfectionism sounds like a good thing on the surface. It's just like, oh, this person's a perfectionist. They always perform to a high standard. That's not what I mean at all. I think I have crippling anxiety when I feel like I'm not going to be able to do a good job of something. So I started to think about what is going on with this anxiety surrounding events, because it's obviously not just Evo Japan, it's also Tokyo Game Show, and it's even just when I go to local events. I think there is that fear that I'm going to waste people's time, which is a big issue. But the other thing is that I think it goes a little bit deeper. When I go back through time and I wonder, like, has this really affected me in my performance in other things that I've tried to do in my life? I started to realize that I think this is actually common. It's something that happens frequently. Maybe it's done differently these days, but when I was growing up, there were certain projects that I just wouldn't really think about. It's like, okay, you need to do a book report in 3 weeks' time. Anytime someone gives me a deadline, 3 weeks from now, I'll be like, okay, I'll do it in 3 weeks. I'll do it like a little bit closer to the deadline. There's no need to do it now. And then we'll get to the deadline and I'll be like, okay, I'm not ready for this, but I have no choice. It's school. They're going to call my name. I'm going to have to go up there and do my book report. And it would be awful. I'd be standing up there. It'd be embarrassing. I wouldn't feel embarrassed because I was a kid. I didn't really understand. I was just like, it's a book about the Lord, and he's surrounded by flies, and he doesn't really like that, so he tries to escape. And I think the teacher's a bit like, you didn't read the book, did you? The little swirl here, I watched a video on the internet about how to make a coffee using the AeroPress. I think that's kind of manifested itself in this weird perfectionism. Now, as you can see with the channel, I've kind of worked through a large portion of that. A lot of videos I make completely unscripted. I don't know if the video is going to be good or bad at the end. There was a time when I started to script things as much as I could to avoid situations like that. I'm actually going to plunge this down now. You know, as you can see, like with a video like this, I do feel like my comfortable spot is doing things and pushing myself to make content, even if I don't know if it's going to be the best content I've ever made. Maybe that's a mistake. Maybe I'll change that again in the future. But as a happy medium for me, I do feel like I perform best and I enjoy my time on YouTube the most when I just go out there and I just try and make the best thing that I can and don't worry about it too much. It's not because that's the best method. I think it's preventative maintenance. I'm trying to avoid a situation where I make nothing, because that also happens to me all the time. And to be honest, it probably happens to many of you as well when you're trying to do something creative. You're thinking, I want to have a channel with 1 million subscribers. I want every video to have 100,000 or 500,000 views. You got all these goals in mind. You're like, but I'm not going to start until I've got the perfect setup. I'm going to buy the perfect gaming desk. You're like, I'm going to not stream until I've got the perfect lighting in the background. Lighting is a big one. You know, people always talk about how important lighting is or how important sound is. It's easy to get bogged down in this complete, I don't know if the word is fallacy, that you're supposed to be having a certain kind of setup before you start. I'm gonna pour out this Columbia and let's give it a taste, even though I'm mid-thought and I apologize for that. Chocolate. Why is it that so many coffees just taste like chocolate? The closer you get to a dark roast, the more that the coffees just kind of blend in together and they all become kind of chocolate. It has an insane texture that I don't get from drip coffee. I understand that the technology is somewhere between an espresso and a drip coffee because it's dripping and it's infusing and you're also squeezing the water through the coffee, so it's a little bit like an espresso, but it's not an espresso. Whatever it is they're doing with the AeroPress, I feel like you could really screw up everything about it and it will still come out with a pretty tasty coffee. I wish my performance at a tournament could be like that. I wish I could just throw anything in and get a good result out. No one has ever accosted me after a match and gone like, what was that? Why did you even show up? It was nothing like that. To be honest, if I give you my true experience of Evo Japan, I played Melty Blood. I signed up for Melty Blood Type Lumina in 2023 Evo Japan just because I wanted to meet people and have fun. And I did. I met people and I had fun. Yet at the tournament on our first match, we were playing and it was obvious that we both didn't really know what we were doing. I think maybe we'd bought the game and played it a few times and forgotten how to play. And halfway through the match, after the first round, my opponent turns to me and he goes, I'm sorry, do you know what the macro is for throw? Do you know how to throw people? I was like, I'm going to be really honest. I can't remember. So it's just the two of us playing this match, looking at each other like, we both don't remember how to play. This is filtered into my approach to events. I'm like, if I'm not going to show up at Tokyo Game Show and actually know what games were going to come out so I can cover them properly, I wanted to have something intelligent to say about these things so it's not just a video. More noise on the internet. I don't want to be part of just more noise. Though, I guess arguably, maybe that's exactly what this video is. I felt difficult to go to these events if I wasn't prepared enough. And to make up these excuses in my mind. I actually said this to myself the other day. If Evo Japan were in August or September, then maybe I'd be ready to go. But that's obviously not the case. It would get to October or September, which is when Tokyo Game Show is, and I would do the exact same thing. Oh man, I was so busy over the summer and I didn't have time to practice. It's like, it goes another level deeper. Have I actually just accidentally been too busy and now I don't want to show up because I don't think I can put on a good performance? Or does it go one level deeper where I've actually self-sabotaged? For whatever reason, I'm like, I don't want to be in public. I don't want to be at an event where it could be embarrassing if I trip and fall on my face or say the wrong thing. I say the wrong things all the time, but you know, when you speak as much as I do, some percentage of it is going to be the stupidest thing you've ever heard. So I do apologize. It's not chance that I'm not prepared for this event. I think it's entirely possible that at the back of my mind, subconsciously, I know that, or I feel like I'm trying to avoid this event because I think something embarrassing is going to happen, or I'm going to have an embarrassing moment where I meet someone new or I meet someone famous and I'll be like, I don't know what to say to you. And to avoid having that experience, I'm actually creating the situation where I'm not ready in the game. I haven't practiced enough. I've actually done that on purpose by filling up my calendar with other things so that I can't practice, so that I can't go to the event. But it's like, I do have time to practice. I'll tell you exactly what I've been doing instead. I've been turning on Panel de Pon, which I am going to play, not at Evo Japan, but at an event during Evo Japan, a side event happening in Tokyo. But I'm not practicing for that event especially. I'm playing Panel de Pon because that's my default game. I have games that I go to when I don't want to branch out. When I'm kind of lazy and I don't want to experience a new story. Or sometimes when I play RPGs, I'm just like, what is the point? Who cares what happens to these characters? When I don't want to push myself out and try new stories, or I don't want to practice and discover that I don't have enough time to get good enough for Evo Japan, I'll be like, well, it's already too late for me. Maybe I'm not even going to show up to the event, so I'll just play some Panel de Pon. And procrastination and just saying something which is clearly not the truth It's like, oh, I don't have time and I'm not even gonna go. It's like, I am gonna go. I'm gonna have fun. And every time I do go, I always have a great time. I'm just making excuses. And the excuse is, I don't want to try. I don't want to push myself. I don't want to admit that I've created this situation on purpose. Like I've actually sabotaged myself. I feel like this happens a lot with a lot of things that I want to achieve. Because I'm afraid of failure, I'll sort of self sabotage. I'll ensure that I can't succeed. And in this particular case, it's just Evo Japan and playing fighting games. I've left it long enough that I can't really remember the buttons, can't really remember my combos, don't really know how to play at a competent level. I've definitely self-sabotaged Evo Japan 2044 for myself. Not entirely. I know, fortunately, that I will go and have a great time. I'll play matches and maybe some of them will feel like a bit of a waste of time because I didn't practice, but I know that the rest of the event, hanging out with people, meeting new people, going to the booths and checking out the new products, testing out things, might even make a few videos. I do build a lot of pressure on myself with the video thing, and that also becomes an excuse to not go to things. I'm like, well, if I can't go and make a really good video, maybe I just won't go at all. I just wanted to share this discussion with you because I feel like it happens to me a lot, where in order to make sure that some sort of embarrassing situation doesn't happen, I will self-sabotage myself. I will make sure that I'm not prepared for my presentation. I will make sure that I'm not prepared to play the video game to a competent level. I will make sure that some sort of embarrassing situation where I say the wrong thing to a person, maybe I'll just get some famous person's name wrong. I'll just create these situations in my mind so that I can use them as excuses to not do various things that I know full well that I'm capable of doing and enjoying. What are those things for you? Are they things that happen to you at work? Are there things that happen to you at school? Are there things that happen to you at fighting game events? Are there things that happen to you with video games? Are there things that you know that you are capable of doing and enjoying, but for whatever reason, something gets in the way? Like, I don't have enough time, or I just don't have enough energy at the end of the day, or I'm just not prepared enough to go to this event. All these things. Is it entirely possible that they're excuses that you have concocted so that the negative outcome is likely to happen? What are you doing to self-sabotage? I'm curious to know if other people do this. I have a feeling other people do this, but I won't know until you let me know. So do let me know in the comment section below if you're interested in videos like this where we talk about stuff like motivation, video games, fighting game events, that sort of thing. Definitely you'll want to check out this video next. I have to say, I've really enjoyed making coffee with the AeroPress, and I'm hoping to make many more videos using it in the future. Anyway, that's all for today. I hope I'll see you real soon.